What's up, what and all? Welcome to another awesome episode of Transit Talk. This is the Peace Dealer. I ask very, oh my God, I ask that you all hold off on the super chat today. So if you have any donations you want to make, please save it for the next video that we do. But I have a really awesome guest. Some of you are familiar with him from the Peace Talk we had. What's good, Phil? How you doing, bro?
Very good, thank you, Michael. I very much appreciate you having me on again. Very good to be here within the company of yourself and the $1 Billion Vibe Tribe. How are you all doing?
We straight, man. I had a wild night last night. I chilled with the triple Sagittarius. She took me with her friends to the strip club and I got fucked up. So I'm still recovering from all that right now. Excuse
Sounds
my
like an incredibly expansive experience in all manners.
Oh yeah. I
So
drank.
did you go home with a whole harem of ladies, or was it just yourself that took the journey home?
Oh well, I mean, I made it back home safe, thank God. But I think I drank a little bit too much vodka. It's something about vodka that creeps up on you, it just kind of like compounds. And I threw up a little earlier, but I feel so much better. So a little bit. Got my water here, and
Well, hopefully it's perfect, and that H2O will bring you back to the same position you were in last night.
yeah, and it's how ironic we're talking about Mars and masculinity.
Definitely.
It's funny because at the strip club, I was talking. The main theme of what I was talking with the strippers about was woman empowerment. Actually, it was this one Taurus lady. Thing that happens when I get there is she was the first lady to catch eyes with me, and it literally ended up being a hour and a half conversation, a 30 minutes hour and a half conversation about astrology. Like, you know how in the strip club, like they're gonna try and hustle you and try and get dances out of you. This lady knew her worth. Like, she wasn't even trying to do that. She was just trying to talk about astrology and the chart, like, for a while. So that was a new experience. Like, everything felt faded. You 12 house suns are amazing. But yeah.
That's quite fun, right? To be able to connect with somebody on a level in such a peculiar environment for talking about these kinds of things as well.
Yeah.
Like you with your Venus in Taurus, obviously there's a natural like vibe that you were sharing. I always get attuned to those Taurus girls as well because I love the eyes and I love the lips, those Taurian lips and eyes. They go a long way. And plus, Taurus is my 8th house, being a Libra rising. So
she was super sensual. Seriously, she didn't even want my money. She just wanted to talk. It's crazy, but it's. I think I met my soulmate twice. Someone said I met my soulmate at the titty bar. Nicole, I met 2 soulmates. It was freaking crazy. A Taurus and a Capricorn, but. White Saifu is also a Gemini with the Cap Moon, and she was at the strip club last night too. So we just had a twin moment. But yeah, bro, how are you doing? What's up with you over there?
I'm very well, thank you, Michael. I'm just really continuing to grow myself within astrology, to continue to grow my channel, continue love exploring the depth of astrology, always still learning about it. Today I've actually been learning about Shakespeare and how he actually utilized a lot of astrology in his plays, whether it was about the characters built around transits and the likeness with regards to their characters. Like, I sent you a clip of Mercutio, who in the Romeo and Juliet modernized adaptation played obviously a mercurial world, Mercutio, and he's also was transgender in the movie, the modernized one. The black gentleman playing both dressing up as a female when they went to the ball, and so that was very interesting. But also they talk about in the movie having to wait before they get married until the new moon, because if they do it on the waning moon, it's not going to be so long lasting, their relationship. And I don't think they did wait. They just went and got married the next day, didn't they? And then they ended up snuffing it. So they also talk. This is actually from Chris Brennan's podcast that I was learning all this information from. They were talking about also the vicar, the pastor who married Romeo and Juliet, was actually playing the Sagittarius role.
Oh,
And he was also the herbalist who made the potions that killed him, snuffed them all off. So I'm very interested in all of that. It's very, very cool. But apart from that, I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
that's what's up. Appreciate you. I'm definitely gonna take moon transits a lot more seriously because there's a lot of wisdom in that, a lot of truth in that.
Sure. I mean, I try to go and get my hair cut whenever the moon is at the stage it's at now, when it's at that quarter moon stage, because then the hair grows thicker and longer. Unless you were like really wanted to do your hair to grow thinner and shorter, then it's a good time to do it on the waning moon.
So waxing is before full and waning is before new. There we go. Okay.
Indeed, yeah. So they utilize this mostly to do with the crops, like farmers, and if you're going to make an investment on something, or if you're going to invest on a company or anything like that, whatever you want to do, if you want to grow it, you grow it with the moon. You want it to be something declining. So if you're trying to cut a drug habit, or if you're trying to get rid of a girlfriend or a relationship that's expired, then you do it with the waning moon, and then hopefully it'll be a nice cut, you get it out of the system.
After the moon is full, and then you release with that. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, bro. In terms of, let's say, Mars in Aquarius, it's back in the sign right now. It's gonna be in Pisces. Oh shit! It's gonna leave Pisces November. It's gonna leave Aquarius November 15th. Square the sun in Scorpio, and the moon is going to actually be on Mars as it travels out of Aquarius into Pisces. So we have.
I love that the moon's always seems to be like this trigger, like, you know, that whether it's a Mercury turning direct after a retrograde phase, or we're seeing an initiation with regards to a transit that's been lingering for such a while. The moon seems to always just accompany the shift in the stars, which is always quite interesting. I heard somebody liken it to Alice in Wonderland. Like, you follow the moon, it's like the white rabbit, and you can follow it down the rabbit hole because it's always got the clues to the bigger tale.
Man, honestly, I still have the lingering taste of vodka in my mouth, so bear with me. But, yeah, White Cascade, no super chat cards today. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I don't know if you're watching along in the live chat, but it's booming.
I see these lovely people. I saw they're your entourage, the billion dollar vibe tribe. I love these live chats that you do because everyone connects and they've all got their own conversations that always goes along with what you're talking about too. It's very exciting.
Yeah, sometimes it's very distracting because they be going in the live chat.
Yeah.
It's cool though. It's very cool.
I got a list of the transits here with regards to each aspect that Mars is going to make for the remainder of its journey in Aquarius.
Let's go down the list. Before you do, we'll go in a synopsis. And I call this ascending masculinity, or rather ascended masculinity, because it's really amazing to see how we're going to witness how do I say this? It's very amazing how we're going to witness, masculinity of men and women reach that more mature, higher level. And this is directly tied into our actions. But there's one thing that I realized, and I've always known this, but I saw this in Bleach actually. Orihime, she has this full bring. She has this power where she can summon apparitions from her hair bands, and she calls them out. And the first time she did that, when she went into Soul Society with Ichigo, she the people were there, she was saying, "Hey, I need your help," and they were saying, "Hey, we're your power. All you have to do is desire it, and we'll do it." And I was like, "That's Mars." So Mars really is. I always knew Mars is power, but Mars is that execution of power in a sense where it follows your desire, and it made me look at Mars so much better. And I know ever since Mars entered Aquarius, I personally started to understand the knowledge of my power more. It's like, regardless of the retrograde or outside the retrograde, once it came back, it's like, okay, back to learn again. Like this is how to know your power. So it's great to see this happening collectively. Like people are going to know their power. People are going to know in context how to use their power, what it's for. And yeah, what do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's very empowering for the individual. It's like, where are we going to have our place in society, and what society are we willing to fit ourselves into? Are we updating the vibration of where we have played a role before, or are we fitting into situations which just don't work for us before? And maybe we just feel rubbed up against the wrong way. It's like, actually, I'm not able to be my complete self in this scenario, in this circumstance. However, with this retrograde, we've had Mars go in there. We've been stifled by our desires, our passions, because we've been shown maybe where they're not working, where they weren't gelling in the way that we wanted them to be experienced by others. Or maybe it was other people that were getting on our tips, that were getting on our nerves, rubbing us up the wrong way. And so it's all about learning how we can be more receptive. Now, because we've got I see that these transits are working in union with each other. We have like Jupiter in Scorpio, which is unearthing and bringing up all of the depths of our psyche. And that's been going on for almost a whole year now. But we've had this Mars retrograde, which is really buffing up our identities, what we find attractive, how we express our anger, how we express ourselves, especially in our unique ways, because we're all so diverse, we're all so different, and that's the benefit to being completely original. And so it's about how we express this originality in a way which is accepting of ourselves without being shy, without feeling that we can't say boo to a goose, but just completely being ourselves. Again, that's with the North Node, Rahu in Leo as well. But also allowing other people who may piss us off or may not be our favourite to allow them to be themselves without severing or cutting them off, which is very Mars. And we may feel that we have been cut off or we have been severed over the course of the past transit through Mars through Aquarius, particularly as it slowed down and transited the nodes. There were some real big bumps in the roads. Have you got any particular instances that you can associate with this over the course of the past few months yourself, Mike?
As far as the retrograde back into Capricorn, or just the authenticity?
Well, Mars, when it reached as far as it got to the 9th and 10th degree of Aquarius, as well as when it went over the nodes, and we had that the first pass of the nodes was actually, I believe the nodes were about 8 degrees at this point. And then when the retrograde phase was on the way, I believe it was at 5 degrees, we had the full moon lunar eclipse conjunct Mars. That was fucking scary to look at before it happened. But thankfully, I feel that anything that has come up has been for our benefit. It's like, how can we resculpt, remold our desires, our passions, our influence, and how we're using our identity to reach this new futuristic aspiration of who we are and what level we're getting to. Because I see that now it's all coming into culmination, and as Mars travels over these same points, that the same eventualities that may have already happened to us, we may be able to even take note of dates and the degree that Mars we were at those times, to see what might be coming up in the next couple of weeks and months. For instance, when Mars initially went into Aquarius and the 0 and 1st degree, were you doing anything to do with your music? Because you just released two videos with regards to your music, right? And so is anything in alignment with regards to how these things are coming into greater fruition now? It's having the 3rd and final pass.
Great question. I was writing the EP then, but I wasn't in the same mind. Like, that retrograde helped me a lot because I had to refocus. And I see it as like getting ready to go on an adventure, but then the retrograde's like, you need your weapon. You need to know your power. So let's go back. And then you go back and you get it. And now it's like, all right, we can go past the checkpoint that was there because we passed the test. And I love how you brought up those dates because they were totally very relevant. And it was kind of triggering and scary. If you don't mind, Phil, I'm going to go make a date with the toilet right now. I will be right back. Could you take over for me right now while I'm gone a little bit?
For sure. I'll hold the fort.
Yeah, I'll be right back. I apologize. This is low-key embarrassing, but I totally got you.
Take your time. Hope you feel refreshed.
I will be right back. But yeah, you got the attention.
So, wow, this is the kind of thing that we have to deal with Mars going through Aquarius. Unexpected happenstance of circumstance with regards to our own personal identity. And so, how have you been initiating your identity? How have you been bringing forth your entire expression of who you are and updating it to your most futuristic version? What I see, which is greatly of benefit at this time, is that we have the ruler of Aquarius, Uranus, in Taurus. So anything that may have seemed weird or out of the box or obtuse or like it doesn't fit the current paradigm has now been made much more relevant, much more valuable, something worth possessing within our own experience, which is Uranus in Taurus. It's like shaking things up. What didn't work is now working. It's now made very valuable. Not only that, but we're going to have Uranus in a matter of weeks retrogress back into Aries. And as it does that, we're really seeing that then we've got Uranus and Mars being in Aquarius, Uranus's sign, and Uranus being in Aries, which is Mars's sign. They'll be in mutual reception. And so when planets are in mutual reception, they're in one another's home territory. They're in one another's dignified areas of being. And not only that, Mars is actually going to transit right at the end of Aquarius, just over the last couple of days, as Uranus has just regressed back into Aries. So they're going to have a sextile aspect between the two, which is very beneficial for how we're seeing ourselves in the completion phase of this whole Mars in Aquarius transit. But that's right at the end of this scenario, as Mike said, it's right at the end, mid-November, the 14th and 15th of November, when that is going on. However, before then, we've got a couple more passes of this continued square with regards to Venus retrograde in Scorpio and Libra, and how it's having a conversation with Mars. We've already had Venus square Mars at the end of Libra and at the end of Capricorn, and then at the beginning of Scorpio and the beginning of Aquarius. That's going on right now. It is loosening now. However, as Venus continues to slow down in Scorpio, at about 7-8 degrees, it will again square Mars. And then Venus will go retrograde, and it will again square Mars while it's in its retrograde phase. But that's not the last time this happens. It finally squares Mars again once it reaches back into Libra as well. There's a big story going on to the culmination of this divine feminine and divine masculine energy, and how we're raising the vibration of these energies within ourselves, whether you're male, whether you're female. We've all got male energy, we've all got masculine energy. I can be a right old feminine kind of chap, or I can be a right old masculine kind of chap. It really depends on what the energy is called for. Sometimes we can be a bit of both. Be a bit of flexibility with regards to how we're being masculine and feminine. It can be ambidextrous with regards to how we utilize both these planets, because we've all got Mars, we've all got Venus in our charts. And so together, this is great that the vibration is being raised of both of these archetypes at the same time of Jupiter finishing up its journey through Scorpio. That's what I think is most miraculous and most marvelous, as we see the grander picture of all of these transits working together. Not only that, but we're going to have a grand trine in the water signs at the end of this Jupiterian transit through Scorpio, trining up to the North Node Rahu, which will have regressed back into Cancer, and Chiron, which has been in Aries, very much playing a large part of this Mars retrograde cycle. Aries being the ruler of Mars, and we're looking at healing this cycle. We're looking at being a maverick with how we really find our masculinity. How can we be this assertive force without being too much? Well, that's what Chiron's been doing in Aries, and so it's been very useful that we've had a sextile at the past few weeks, and currently still now, between Mars at the beginning of Aquarius and Chiron at the beginning of Aries. But Chiron's regressing, as I say, back into Pisces, where it had been earlier this year, just to finish up its story in Pisces, because it spent about 8 years there already. However, it's just going back for a cup of tea over the course of this winter, a few more months with regards to becoming the shaman of our own stories. And so we see that this is happening just as Jupiter's spending its last week in Scorpio. That's not just the last week of a year's transit. No, no, no. That's the last week of a 12-year, almost a 13-year Jupiterian cycle. And so it's very poignant that we have this Mars retrograde and this Venus retrograde in the last 6 months of a 12, 13-year Jupiterian cycle. We can find that we're actually just karmically raising the vibration of our relationship with self and the relationship that we share with one another, so that when we move forward into this next brand new Jupiter cycle, with Jupiter ingressing into its home sign of Sagittarius, that we're ready to really embark on a whole new philosopher's perspective on reality itself, fully knowing ourselves, how we're being receptive to others, and how we're asserting our energy with regards to our community and with regards to our own spirituality. Because it's still a little while yet before Mars will actually make it back home to its sign of Aries. I believe that's not until maybe February. Don't hold me to that. I'm not checked out the dates. But it's very exciting indeed. So I'm intending that this has worked well for you. If you're watching this now, I must advocate. I can see that there's 250 of you watching this right now. 50 of you have already liked this video. So everybody who hasn't already liked it, like it. And anybody who hasn't subscribed to my personal channel, get on it, because I've only got 910 subscribers. I need another 90, then I've got 1,000 subscribers. I challenge you guys, ladies and gentlemen, stars of all ages, to subscribe to my channel. Then I'll have over 1,000 that I can do broadcasts, hosting with the live chat like this, with such large amounts of people. That'd be very exciting for me to do. I was just explaining, Mike, how we've got a very nice finito to this scenario with Mars in Aquarius, because Uranus will be retrogressing back into Aries, and that's just as Mars is at the end degrees of Aquarius. So they sextile each other while in mutual reception of each other's signs. So that's going to be very magical indeed. And that's not happening, as you say, until mid-November. There's a lot of squares that are going on, continuing on between Venus and Mars before the retrograde of Venus and after the retrograde of Venus, even with Venus in Libra as well. So very exciting to see so much is going on. What's my channel, MK? I see. Well, it's my name, Phillip Daniel Miles.
I just put it in the description.
Thank you very much.
If you refresh this page, you will see it in the description. Give this man a subscription. He is the real deal. Make sure you mash that like button. I saw someone hit the dislike. Screw you, whoever you are. But shout out to all y'all who pressed the like button. I'm not gonna lie, I upchucked a lot. You ever take a number 2 and barf? My bad. It's TMI right now, but it was like that right now. I don't drink on an empty stomach, guys, because I went on that vodka diet last night. Not cool. But anyway, I
want to tell you something very masculine in the sense that it's not the cleanest story. It might even be more disgusting than yours. But since like over the course of the past year or so, my ex-partner, she initiated me into you know the pooper squatty thing, the unicorn pooper squatty thing. I think you've mentioned it before, where you use the stool so that you can take a shit while in the crouching position, because it's actually the more natural position to empty your bowels.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I haven't got one of those, so I actually sit now with my feet on the stool, like crouched up, crouching tiger, hidden dragon. And the problem is, if you do have an explosive meal the day before, you can sometimes cake your heels and crap, which is not the most pleasant of experiences. Yeah. But there you go. That's the kind of thing that we bring forth when we're expressing these toiletry habits.
Yeah, I'm just, oh my God. I'm just remembering why I'm such a recluse every time I go.
I appreciate that.
Other than that, I was hearing you break down the transits with Mars very, very, very well too. I love how you brought up the square to make the Scorpio and how it retrograded back for Libra. How do you feel that? Well, what do you think about the Mars transit compared? Because it's the Sun's in Virgo and Mars in Aquarius. Then Sun will be in Libra trining Mars, and it'll be squaring Mars. So that seems like a like check right there. Like the King Kungs, the trine, the square. It's like we're slowly getting ready almost to how do I say it? It's like we're adjusting the power, and that square might end up being a good aspect instead of something challenging, like taking the core of our being and applying it to our power. But yeah, I love that you brought up Venus retrograde too. That's also
I feel like sometimes in life, and astrology is just how we can be more forgiving and understanding for the situation. But truly, you've got to make some mistakes to really level up. You've got to really cross some boundaries or shut your fingers in some doors to really learn where we can become our greatest versions. And so I see that there's going to be some more mistakes. There's going to be some more contractions with regards to these transits. It's not to say that contractions are a bad thing, because every time that you have a contraction, I mean, we were born through contractions, right? We came out through our mothers because she gave birth using contractions, and contractions are but a contracted scenario where we get to opportunity to rebirth, to transform. So we're transforming through any squares, through any tight situations we have to squeeze ourselves through. But when we squeeze through these bottleneck situations, we find on the other side that we know ourselves a lot more whole. We can express ourselves a lot more completely. And so people understand ourselves, who we are, and we understand ourselves and who other people are and how we can better interact, being our complete selves while knowing where we stand with regards to boundaries with others. And some people can be, I mean, even myself, like I think we all can sometimes be intimidated to let people know where their boundaries are, where they're able to cross and where they're not able to cross, what makes us feel comfortable and confident, and where we're not wanting other people to trespass. But when we let people know, which sometimes can be intimidating depending on your energy, that means that they know where they stand as well. So I think a lot of these things are coming up with regards to these squares in relationships. And the funny thing is, as a natal Venus in Scorpio, we can really get lost. So when Venus in Scorpio, we're here to get lost. We're here to get lost in all the things that we desire, all the things that we crave, whether it's down the strip club getting lost and desiring the perfect romance with the most astrologically proven dancer, or if it's like, online, or whether it's in any old relationship, we're going to get lost because we're choosing to go into the depths of Scorpio, which is a grey area, right?
It's so dark.
Indeed. It's a bit like you don't go into bed without it being a grey area. You don't have someone in bed with you without it being a grey area. You don't get into a contracted scenario with someone in business without it being a grey area. There's always this taboo. And so it's through that we get to learn ourselves and each other more wholly. And I think by December, we'll be a lot more flexible, a lot more dexterity with regards to how we're being receptive to other people's values, as well as our own. People will find that people are more accepting of ourselves. So you can even see the Martian archetype playing through Venus in Scorpio, Mars being the ancient ruler of Scorpio also.
I also love how Jupiter is going to enter Sag by the time this comes through. And we got Crazy Bull in the building, Chad, and a lot of other transmuting butterflies. What's up? So yeah, this is really embarrassing. I'm so sorry, but the toilet called again. No, I'm joking. Yeah, if you see me like run away, it's because duty calls. So bear with me here. But other than that,
you're checking on the stripper, which you've got tied up in the bedroom from last night, is it?
Oh God! If only that was true. If only that was true. it's my liver and my stomach that's got me tied up right now. But other than that, it's still really awesome because not this, and yeah, I'm gonna stay hydrated. But other than that, it's important because with all these shifts here, I get the sense that this ascended masculinity is definitely going to bring us some great breakthrough when it comes to like how we even, in a corny way, it's like evolving your power, where like you implement an extra step into what you do to add more force and power to what you do, which once again has a lot to do with that knowledge. And I love how you said that Venus and Scorpio brings us to this gray area. I know ever since Venus is in Scorpio, I've been talking about alcohol is poison. I agree. I'm not a heavy drinker, as you see, but I definitely I've been talking about my experiences with a stalker recently. And this has so much to do with Venus and Scorpio, because every time it's been there now, this has been growing more intense. The same lady who, you know, I've told over and over that not trying to get into you, she made a new email with my last name talking about she's still so in love with me. And I see this more as like Venus and Scorpio, just like bringing that obsessiveness through.
If that was the guy doing that, they would be told off. They would be had up if there was a public scenario. But like, because it's, I feel like this is also a grey area. This is a grey area conversation we're having here. But like, I feel like the men have been very much held up with regards to their even having a glance at ladies in the street. I think it's actually quite natural to say, oh, actually, you're pleasing to the eye. You're female. You're pleasing to the eye. Hey, you're a dude. You're pleasing to the eye. But basically, it's about sharing the attraction. Sharing attraction to another being has become very taboo recently, and even to some degrees, even not even accepted. It's actually been pushed away to make people even feel guilty if they express their desire to say that, oh yeah, you're pleasing to my eye. I'm attracted to you. That's not, or to compliment someone on. And I don't think that's right. I think that actually it's a bit like going up to a gay person, or if I was gay, for instance, and I wanted to get with another gay guy, I'd have to ask. You'd have to ask, but without asking, you just don't know, do you? And so you've got to kind of say, okay, I find you attractive, and you've got to be okay with putting that across without being burnt or chastised for really putting your truth out there. And I feel like if you are, I don't know, saying, hey, I find you attractive, or flirting with someone, I don't think that you should be chastised or put down for that. I think that's a natural expression. We're all co-creative sexual beings. It's about knowing the boundaries and not overstepping them if people assert them. You know? If someone says, no, I'm not interested, then you know not to keep going. And that's the way you play the game. What's your opinion on this? Because obviously you're dealing with this person who oversteps their boundaries, and they're not letting go of you. They won't put you down. They're treating you like a chew toy with emails here, following you there. How do you feel about it?
This is karma, Phil. This is karma for all the times I slid in girls' DMs and I didn't get the hint. For all the times I've written like paragraphs and conversations in girls' DMs and they didn't respond. And I was like, oh, maybe if I just say this, they'll respond. Maybe if I just say something else, they'll respond. And God is just showing me my Venus in the 12th. Like, this is how bad it could get. Work on yourself, Michael. So,
well, I think we both learned lessons this Mars transit with regards to that, for sure. I have had people tell me that they don't like me for certain ways of expressing my sexuality. I'm not really, as a Venus and Scorpio, it offends me. It makes me want to take a step back. So because people think that you're doing it because you want to be an assailant. No, nobody likes to be not received in a way which is harmonious. Yeah. Just that we're saying, okay, well, we're attracted to you, or we're certain trying to reach out in a way which is maybe about sexuality or sexual desire, really being that boisterous Mars energy.
No, like I definitely, I hate to interrupt you. I definitely felt like this one Capricorn woman was like my soulmate. I was like, oh, I meant to be with her. She don't want to talk to me. You know what I mean? Like I try to message her over and over. And that's why I can look at this with a grain of salt. It's like I can't really be so mad at her because I didn't show up to random places to try and like stalk her, but it's like, you know, it's it's on a lower level, but still it just kind of taught me like, okay, this is how it's received. But at the same time, like I love how you said with the gender reversal, like there's no way I could do that really and get away with it. I can't just go pop up on a chick and be like, yeah, I saw you post something, so I followed you here and I want to move. Like they call the police. Like I'd get my ass up. So it is what it is. I could kind of laugh how it's different with gender. It's still not any less crazy, but I referenced that because I see that very much so as, you know, once again, Venus and Scorpio bringing out people's inner obsessions, bringing out, and then of course with Mars and Aquarius, these extreme energies, they're just going to make things more crazy, a little bit dramatic. How do you feel about the North Node, the South Node aspect to Aquarius too? I see it as like downloading ancient memories about our power.
Yeah, well, this is bringing up things that where we repeat scenarios where we've been hurt again and again through our Martian traits.
Yeah.
Maybe even through extra masculine people within our society that we have come up through our reflections, through our karmic reflections, maybe some of our best friends or a family member or a colleague. These are what happens. I seeing soul contracts, especially with our soul family. They may be our nearest and dearest that are playing the softer role of a reflection that was really encroaching upon us in the past life. But they may have even like stabbed us up or taken our lives or taken our masculinity, severed our penises if you have one. But if you these kinds of things are the things that are coming up, and so again, it's about how we can heal this. How can we use this as a remedy to be a more supportive role in masculinity? How can we support other people too? Because if we're all noticing what it's like to be cut off or to be severed, be like, okay, well, I see that you're actually okay. You're just being a bit too obnoxious. You're being a bit too loud. You're being a bit too boisterous. Can you just hearken down a little bit, turn the volume down, and you'll be great. I mean, I really like how you're doing everything about you. I mean, you're beautiful, but if you could just turn it down a little, have a little bit more patience with yourself, and then it's about being open to helping each other out here and being able to listen to other people, how we can become a better version of ourselves too. So it's a two-way street, which is not very Martian, but again, that's utilizing the Venus as well. I always get my Mars and Venus muddled because they trine in my natal chart. So I always end up talking about one and the other very much together.
And what do you feel is the difference between Mars and Libra and Mars and Aquarius? That whole air dynamic.
Mars in Libra. Well, Mars in Libra is all about the desire to bond, the desire to be in a partnership and identifying with a partnership. We're like, right, okay, well, I'm Brad and Jennifer. We are now a unit. We are unified and we will go as an entity wherever we all go, whether it's to the left to a movie outing or whether it's to the right to a personal situation. We'll go together and we'll be like Brad and Jennifer. And so you can say that people with Mars in Libra as individuals, they really associate themselves with their relationships. They relate to how they are a great partner, or they relate to how harmonious and fair they are with their friends, all of this kind of thing. Whereas Mars in Aquarius is all about I'm a part of the community. This is me. I'm playing my role and I'm contributing to society. Society really values me because I'm the man or I'm the assertive force within this group. You don't have to be a man. You can be an assertive lady with Mars in Aquarius, assertive female with your Mars in Aquarius with regards to how you're bringing around your identity and how you may be asserting yourself in a way which is completely unique. For instance, a couple of Mars in Aquariuses I know of, especially they were actually born with Mars retrograde in Aquarius. were a couple of comedians. I'm not sure if you guys, if you're not British, will be familiar, but these are two British comedians. One of them is David Walliams, who co-starred in the original comedy Little Britain, and also Eddie Izzard. He has been in a number of movies, and he's a very funny comedian too. But they were both born with Mars retrograde in Aquarius back in the 70s, I believe, which was the last time that Mars went retrograde in Aquarius. And both of them, they are both very comedic, very, very funny men, but they're both cross-dressers. They both love to wear female clothing. They're not gay, I don't think. I think they're very straight men, but they love to wear the female clothing. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's pretty cool. I've got a Mars in Pisces. I wouldn't mind trying on some women's clothing myself every now and again. But they were doing it proud, walking around, doing their comedy shows, wearing dresses, all of this kind of thing. But they actually have developed from being comedians, cross-dressing comedians, with Mars retrograde in Aquarius in their natal charts, to now being very political figures, or actually being very well-known children's book writers, novelists. And so it's very interesting that the uniqueness of the masculine energy in Aquarius. It can be not necessarily, especially when Mars is retrograde, because it can be completely inverted. It's about asserting the masculine energy while wearing women's clothing in a unique way, which is respected. Also, it's quite interesting because we look at the ruler of Aquarius, and it is Uranus in the modern day. But back in the ancient days, it was Saturn, back in the original zodiac. And I was just listening to the astrology podcast, and they were talking about Aleister Crowley denoting some of the significations of Aquarius as a sign. And they were saying the demeanor of an Aquarian would be one who wouldn't want to rock the boat too much. That's before that they discovered that Uranus was the ruler of Aquarius. So since they add that, they really update the understanding of what Aquarius means to us. It's quite funny that they would say that the society was more conventional. Everybody was much more squares, which is a very Saturnian thing back in the day. But since the 1900s, Aquarius is very much about the unique person, the person who's completely out the box. So associate that with your identity, and then you've got Mars in Aquarius.
And I love how you tied in how the last time it was retrograde, it was in the 70s. So I wanted to reference some riots that happened around then. But regardless, you know, it might be interesting to see that energy come back with the update, as well as just more so people coming more into where they belong, where their actions belong, where their power belongs. Amazing synopsis between Mars and Libra versus Mars and Aquarius, which I asked because like a lot of what we're bridging in now is carrying from that Mars statement. And you know,
so would you say that where our actions are most called for is like, okay, well, we've all got different gifts within our identities, but we're all called to play different roles within our societies. And so, for instance, our role is to be an online presence right now, what we're doing here in sharing the beauty and wisdom of astrology.
Yes.
Whereas someone else, it might be to be in the garden, like planting, like all the good vegetables, and really saying, come on guys, we really need to plant some more vegetables and make that we're a community doing this rather than going to the shops. There's two different ways to associate with Mars and Aquarius. So it's where we find ourselves most called because our desire, our passion drags us there. And that's our role in society. That's our gift of ourselves that we get to share with the group of people that we have things in common with.
Okay. And if anything, you know, like it's cool to see how even now we can reach out to 300 plus viewers. That's very Aquarian, you know, taking actions as a group, taking action as a collective. It really serves to show. I was gonna ask you too, what's the difference between Mars and Aries and Mars and Aquarius? Not even Mars and Aries. What's the difference between Aries and Aquarius, where Aries is original? Well, Aries and Aquarius are both original, but what's the subtle difference? And I guess that might be with Aries is just one and Aquarius is like everyone, right? But still,
Yeah. Well, like I suppose like Mars, Aries would be like I'm going to go do this on my own, and I don't need anybody to hold my hand. I don't need any permission. In fact, I'm not even going to hang around and have a conversation about it. I'm just already going to be doing it, you know. Whereas Aquarius is more like, I am doing this for the better good of the collaborative force of the community. I mean, I can't do this without the rest of the community, and the community can't do this without me, because we're all the jigsaw puzzle together. We're all co-creating this, and we're creating a wave of connectivity, a wave of harmony within our identities together.
Did you say that last part? We're weaving our identities together?
We're waving our identities together, creating a wave, like a W. Like if you look at the letter W, it's like the harmony between all men. I was actually coming up with some very profound information the other day. So you know that if you break down the toroidal field, right, and say that that's what our auras are, it's this toroidal field, and it could be like the logos. In fact, I believe that a toroidal field is a zodiac, and each of our atoms are mini zodiacs. They're mini atoms, or they're tombs of which are celebrations of time. Right? That's very Santos Bonacci information, but like it's very useful and empowering information. So if we see that, actually, if we look at this Da Vinci man or human being with this inside this toroidal field, and then we use the vortex maths on top of that image, we see that this bounce between vortex maths going 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 back to 7 to 5 back to 1. I've probably done the maths wrong. I've rushed it there. I'm showing off, but that makes a W. Again, that's like this is like the logos, and so a W is connectivity. It's we. It's wireless. It's the wave. It's all of these things, and so we see that the atoms dance that it does, bouncing around this every toroidal field. Every little atom is the same dance. It makes this, it's this connectivity, and so we're built out of atoms, and we make one great big one, and we are just one within the vast field of Aquarius. So in a sense, all of this together is us creating a wave format so we can share our message as one unified field of love, of awareness.
That's very amazing. And when you said that, I was thinking about the starry background behind me, how like we're just one mini cluster out of like so many other clusters. E.T. So, if anything, you know, it's amazing how we get to be in the macro, but still hold our uniqueness, like in the midst of so many billions of other presences, which is just forever astounding. I once again want to harp on that South Nodal influence, because interestingly enough, it retrograded around 9 degrees, and it was the eclipse too that kind of sparked off that retrograde. But it's amazing. I really do invite all of you to be aware of the instant quality of how you're just going to really remember how to do things you may have never known. It's like bridging a super conscious memory. I like to reference the ancient future with South Node Aqua, but it's definitely very interesting regardless.
I see that the biggest gift of within this whole experience is how we can accept other people when they've got completely different views to us, but still allow them to be that person. You know, one person might say that they support Donald Trump, for instance, and the other person might say, well, I don't even ever touch politics with a barge pole. But yet you got to respect both people, both polarities. I don't even know who the other people are because I don't even look at it. So I don't, and I'm English, so I don't actually have a clue. All I say is, might not be a popular opinion, but I like what you say, Mike, when you say that the most unpopular opinions are the ones that we should most vouch for, and not be shy to vouch for them because they are ours. And it's about other people accepting them or not accepting them, but without there being this friction to need to cause fight. They don't have to squabble or tear other people down because that they don't share the same opinion of you. And my opinion is, I think that Donald Trump is actually quite a good catalyst for change. It might not be the kind of change that we want, but it illuminates the kind of change that we can bring around by saying, well, I'm not standing for that, I'm not standing for this. Let's have a real change that's going to make a lasting difference and bring around the change that we need in our society.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love that you brought up Trump, because I mean, that's everything to do with mutable signs, and he has Uranus too. It's crazy. Yeah. So other than that, you know, there's a very positive breakthrough once again of like, I think of the best thing about this transit with the squares is like every fear that got us in the way of stepping into our power, every block that kind of, you know, got us in the way of coming into this. It's like we get to fully break through it. It's like we really fully get to come through and beat those demons and actually rise up even larger. It's crazy how like Mars transits don't move as quickly as Mercury or Venus per se, but they cover a lot of ground. And once again, it's coinciding the Venus retrograde, which is definitely very amazing. I could definitely feel that square will bring up interesting drama, but other than that, it's quite the experience once again. And,
yeah, the squares between Venus and Mars, I think there's about 6 or 7 of them in total. With regards to this, it's a saga. This is basically ongoing with regards to certain things. And I feel that they can come up, for instance, if we had a quarrel or a debacle with one person or one energy, I see that this same type, the archetype of the story can come up, but maybe not be played out of the same people, because this is a lesson that we're learning to make use of. It may feel like a hindrance, the first square or the first pass of certain degrees with regards to this transit, but we're really learning to make use of them so that we can come out a completely renovated, reorganized, reorchestrated version of our masculine energy. And that takes a lot of practice, and that's what we've been doing. This is why Mars retrograde takes months for us to complete. It's because we're looking to... Mars doesn't want to listen. Mars just wants to move forward and do. And so, you know, we've got to not help. We kind of keep hitting these brick walls with regards to our Martian energy, and we can't help but take notice when we hit brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. We even hit a brick wall before Mars made it to Aquarius, because it had to pass Saturn and Pluto. So we've had a lot of this bubbling up through the course of this year. And so it's going to be so liberating to really have this Mars reach new territory. Once it gets to 10 degrees and passes, it's going to be very beneficial. But the funny thing is you keep mentioning a very key word in breakthrough. And I love the way that you're doing that, because we're having, it's a bit like a plant breaking through concrete surface. It's got to break through and it's got to burst through, and then it's going to flower. It's going to grow. It's going to really see the light of day. And so we can see that with a lot of the projects that within our communities, or a lot of the way that we've been forging this new identity with the course of Uranus and Taurus and Mars in Aquarius and all of the whole retrograde through the whole summer. We're seeing it come into culmination with this Aries full moon. Aries full moon sextile Mars in Aquarius, sextile the South Node. So it's about birthing this new identity, as well as releasing the shit that doesn't work, releasing the old ways of doing things that just don't serve anymore. I mean, that's the case with every full moon, right? But this is particularly the case when it sextiles Mars, which we've been talking about.
Yeah. Some people brought up Eminem, which I think is very relevant because he is an Aquarius moon. And it's nice to see his activity. It's nice to see how, because I remember in 2013, 2014, I spoke of there being hip hop war, and it's all coming true. And like 2019 is going to be a huge bloodbath. But once again, like, it, you know, seeing an icon like him step back in the fray, primarily because he's trying to resituate his place in the game, his belonging. You know, seeing these legends be like, am I still as received with this newer generation? Like, how do I let them know I'm still here? You know what I mean? Without sounding like I care too much. And, you know, it'd be interesting to see how all this develops with Mars and Aquarius, how people bring out their power and their sword, as a matter of fact, too, as well as the Aquariuses. How do you feel you as a Capricorn are dealing with this, with having Pluto and Saturn as well?
Good grief. Well, I've just said I can't help but be personal in the sense that express my own personal expression with regards to it, and that's just I've had to be incredibly patient all year long because I had a solar return with Saturn conjunct my Sun, and I also have Pluto currently retrograde on my IC within a degree orb. So this is a continued process of personal evolution for me, but I see that this is getting rooted, getting a good template ready to grow, something that's going to last the test of time. That's what Saturn's about. We don't look at things and say, this is really hard, this is my enemy, I don't like this experience. It's like, astrology's here. What can it do for me? What can I utilize this energy for? How can I make this my friend? How can I learn to grow bigger, better, and stronger through these transits so that the next 30 years, which Saturn takes to transit the whole cycle of a chart, it can be the most successful and the most fun and bring me the most joy. And so that's what I've been dealing with regards to things. It's about, actually, funnily enough, so the summer solstice is opposite my birthday. That's when the sun was at the beginning of Cancer. My sun is actually at the beginning of Capricorn. So I was thinking, oh my God, I've got to be patient. I've got to learn patience through 6 months of my journey this past solar year. And then after the summer solstice, when the sun couldn't go any further, but before it started to return back to my natal sun, so it's 6 months in from my birthday, I was learning, actually, I've learned some patience. I commend myself for being patient, you know, and that was a big turnaround, not just by the sun, because it's returning back to my sun, but also with regards to seeing the lessons that have been implicated through the course of a solar year. But I also had a great awakening with regards to astrology in general at that time, because I realized that our spirit can't expand any further than when we are 6 months from our birthday. So whenever we are 6 months from our birthday, we're 6 months from returning back to the source of our own spirit. We've expanded as much as we possibly can within that year. And so the lessons are coming home to roost at that point. We can start gathering ourselves and thinking, yeah, the rewards are coming. I've done all this hard work. It's all coming together. And so it's time to get excited and to really reward ourselves for doing our due diligence, especially if you've got Saturn involved. If Pluto's there too, my golly, just be grateful for the transformations and know that it's not coming back there ever again. This is a once in a lifetime transformation. It's just a death that's going to last for 5 months, and then it's going to be moved on and you're going to be reborn. Reborn as a completely new entity, ready to express yourself in a completely new way.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And it's a new empowering way. It's like almost embarking on a new adventure of discovery in a certain sense. And not just kind of like discovering your power, but knowing finally what to do with your power. I think it's a great sense of purpose that'll be established through this all, which is very, very, very much needed. And
yeah, well, people like you mentioned, like Eminem, right? Well, maybe he's like looking to use his influence in a way which is much more beneficial for things that he believes in. I don't know what he believes in. Just for argument's sake, say he believes in astrology. He might start implementing a few astrological terms into some of his rhymes with some good reason, so that he can teach the wisdom of astrology. It might be something else that he's advocating for. It might be about racism. It might be about politics. You don't know. But either way, with a moon in Aquarius, you know that Eminem's always going to bring out something which is completely out the box, which is personal to him, which he can help nurture the masses with, help them have a better understanding of why it's important to take care of that home responsibility.
yeah. And if anything, you know, I'm really just grateful for how we've all grown. This is definitely going to show, once again, it's definitely going to put us in situations with the squares and with the oppositions where, like, we're going to confront situations we might have been fearful of, we might not have been ready to before. But now we have that knowledge of ourselves, knowledge of what we can do. I hate to cut this short. I could honestly talk a whole nother hour on this, but what would you say to close in conclusion with this transit?
I would say that this is a great opportunity. So one of my favorite messages that I've heard you talk about over the course of these past few months is about being your unapologetic, complete and utter selves.
Yes.
But knowing that that person to the left, the person to the right, actually that's my left and that's my right. That shows what I know. But either way, like it's about knowing that everybody's being their complete selves, and you've got to be somewhat accepting of that if you want to be your complete selves. So it's about not tearing down other people. This is the lesson of the North Node in Leo. It's about all being able to rise into prominence together without stealing energy from one another. And so I think that we can all do that because we've learned so much. We're much stronger. We're much more confident. We're much bolder. And if we're still growing through that, if we still have doubts, then we know that actually we can just take a look back where we were a year ago. For instance, a year ago, Michael, you interviewed me. I wasn't in the best state. I was actually having Pluto conjunct my Jupiter transit my Pluto to the degree. And so I can see so much has changed in the past 10 months, and I get great confidence from that. And I challenge anybody who ever doubts themselves just to see how far they've come over the course of their Jupiter in Scorpio transit. How much of your shadow have you now uncovered, which has enabled you to step into your masculine energy, enabled you to be receptive to new ideas, values, and concepts of other people as well? This has been a great journey, which opens us up to a great healing process with regards to how we conceive of our place in reality, and how your place in reality is the pinnacle. Yeah. And allowing yourself to be is allowing everyone else to be too. So don't hold yourself back no more. No. Be your complete and utter selves without apology and rise into prominence. And I have one question for you, if it's not too abrupt before you rise off. That is that you've got your North Node in Aquarius, right?
Yes, sir.
So I wondered how you're dealing with the polarity of having the South Node transit your North Node and Mars. I just wondered how that has affected you, like you're having the flip reversal of the nodes, and maybe learning that these gifts can be worked on in different ways. I'm just intrigued to how that might affect you.
No, it's a very fascinating question. I'm feeling direction come to my career now. Like I'm starting to know what this is all coming together for, where to direct it. Everything about South Node and Leo is to not really be thirsty for the spotlight and to share it with others, to connect with the collective. So I feel that it's like, okay, now it's time to get the spotlight just so I can fulfill my destiny, and to also really come into more so of what I'm meant to do. It feels very karmic. The Leo King is a Leo, so I'm working a lot more closely with him. And it's like he's helping to activate a lot of this too. But I apologize, guys. I would pull cards. I'm just feeling like crap right now.
Well, I really appreciate you, even though you felt like crap, getting out of bed on a Sunday, which isn't easy in the first place, and sticking to the arrangement, because you didn't have to do that. And I appreciate you taking the extra time when you didn't feel so great. So thank you. I know that you'll be joining me on my channel in a couple of weeks. Maybe once this energy shift, we've got something fresh to talk about. Maybe we can talk about the Jupiter ingress into Sagittarius. So please subscribe, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, to my channel. I've got loads of guests coming on as well. Mike will be very welcome to join me too.
Yes, and I would love to talk about Jupiter. That's going to be super exciting right after the Clap Expo and all that. So y'all stay blessed. Thank you once again. Thank you so much, Phil. You nailed it. You held it down. Much appreciated. And
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And you guys stay blessed. And yeah, until next time, peace out.